In every county in New York State, listening to people's concerns. The Sharp Way is a show where answers, solutions, and common ground can be found so that together we can forge a new way forward. The Sharp Way is the way to mutual respect, where no one has to convert to be heard, because you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want, as long as you aren't forcing your beliefs on others. Welcome to Sharp Way Radio.
Yes, it is Larry Sharpe here on Shortwave Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. So happy that you are giving me a chunk of your afternoon. The phone call to call me, you can do so. The phone number is 585 346 3000. I want you to, if you would, imagine that all of a sudden you now have access to $250,000 in credit. So if you want to, you can draw on $250,000. Now, whatever your credit is now, whatever that is, I'm saying this is in addition to. If you have a lot of credit, good for you. If you don't, sorry, or maybe if that's on purpose, again, good for you. But in either case, you now have, with my magic powers in our fantasy world, access to $250,000 of credit. Use it if you want. Just imagine the average American, average New Yorker, who decides, great, now I can do stuff. You would imagine how you could easily do something great and also get yourself into trouble. Both of those things are absolutely possible. All types of things could happen without doubt, right? All those things could happen. You could do great things. You could get yourself in trouble. Now, why would I say that? Because that's what often happens with people who are in commercial real estate. What are you talking about, Larry? What do you mean? Well, something that's very valuable to most people until recently were big commercial buildings. This is a big deal. It's a physical big property. Look at this thing. It's amazing. Look how big it is. It's got people in it. It's got steel and concrete, land. It's amazing. It is a great thing to borrow against. And boy, did people borrow against it, left and right. That was happening all over the place. Some of you may know this, some of you may not. Been happening all over the place. Let's borrow against this. Let's raise money based upon this.
Rob, Brooklyn.
I love it. Well, now all of a sudden, we're looking at the value of those commercial real estate places. You know what? Not being so valuable anymore all of a sudden. And all that credit that you got because of that big building you had, not so valuable anymore. I remember walking through Manhattan right around the lockdown times. And if you remember someone else, Lou Rossman, for those of you who want to watch, he has a YouTube page, Lou Rossman. It's two N's, Lou Rossman with two N's. We've done shows together, him and I, talking about New York City and New York State in general and real estate. He would show how so many businesses and bottoms of a nice building would be clean, empty. People would be upset. They would tell me and ask me questions. Larry, why is it empty? I don't get it. Wouldn't it be better to have somebody there versus nobody? I mean, it looks terrible. Isn't it lowering the value of that building? True. But people didn't realize that when these banks and financial institutions were giving all of these loans to build this building and the one next to it and knock one down and rebuild another one for hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, that they had rules to their loan. They had rules like, well, you have to rent it for X amount of dollars, or you have to have it empty or closed for a certain amount of time or whatever. And if you don't, we're going to punish you. So it actually becomes cheaper for the building owner to not have a tenant, right? To not have a tenant instead of paying the fees to the bank. And the bank was trying to be good. It was like, we're going to keep your mandatory rents high because that'll keep the riffraff out. See, we got this covered. We're super smart. Oh, they didn't realize that New York State would just punch them right in the face. Say, oh, sorry, no. We got you on this one. And now you're going to come to a point where you're desperate. Well, this becomes a horrible cascade. All of a sudden now I don't have the retail in my building. The value of my building becomes less, even in my residential building, because most residential buildings, not true most, many in New York City, they have retail on the bottom, residential up top. And part of the way they pay their bills is through the retail on the bottom. All right, well, that's bad. But now there's worse. And the worst part is now, not just the retail, but now the regular business commercial, people aren't coming back to New York City.
Rob, Brooklyn.
Like there's no tomorrow, they were pushing it. Right? They pushed it hard. Now people, some have come back, but many haven't come back. So now what are you going to do? You've got commercial buildings half empty. Now what you going to do? You're not getting your rent from the commercial building up top. You're not getting your rent from your retail at the bottom. And now you got people saying, why am I in the city? I'm packing up and I'm leaving. Well, you might say to yourself, well, Larry, why do I care? These are some rich fat cats who have tons of money. I don't care about those guys. Let them get screwed. Well, I could see that point. I could see that point. But now what happens when those banks start failing? And you got your money in that bank. What about that? What about the people who aren't the fat cats? What about the average guy or gal who's trying to rent out their basement, who is trying to buy one building to try to move themselves up? Oh, they're done for now. So they're gone. That's your friend. That's your neighbor. That's your cousin. That's your uncle. That's your niece. That's your aunt. Now they're screwed. So it isn't just the fat cat. It is the fat cat. But here's the worst part. The fat cat made their money already. They'll declare bankruptcy. They'll move on. They'll buy something else. The little person is really going to hurt. So what has been the answer to this? Well, we're going to fix this problem. We're going to regulate it. Because what could go wrong? What could go wrong with government regulation? What could go wrong with government stepping in and saying, we'll just use price controls? That's never gone wrong except every time. With the exception of every time, that's never gone wrong. So why wouldn't they think that? So on top of everything, with the lockdowns destroying commercial real estate, then destroying retail, now it's also destroying residential as prices begin to drop. Now, as the prices drop, you might go, well, wait a minute, Larry, if prices drop, isn't that going to mess up the little guy? Yeah. Because now you, the average person who wanted to buy a home or buy an apartment, maybe even in a city, often you'll buy an apartment, not buy an actual house, whichever, your home is your home. You decide to buy an apartment, and now that price goes down. You still paying a mortgage on it. So now you go, well, you know what? This is getting bad. I'm going to pack up and leave this dumb New York. I'm out. How are you going to sell your house? How are you going to sell your apartment? When people don't want it. And if they want it for a price to where you're not going to have any money. So you're going to have to go from being some form of owner to some form of renter because now you can't afford to buy anymore.
Never mind, he hung up.
This comes back and hurts everybody. It doesn't just hurt the fat cat. In fact, it hurts the fat cat the least. They're actually hurt the least. By dollars, it looks like they're hurt the worst, right? If you just did dollars, it looks like they're hurt the worst. But in reality, they aren't, because they'll bounce back in 5 minutes. But how about our friends and our families who are trying to make the next steps? They don't get to bounce back. Maybe not for decades. What if they're already older? What if they're in their 50s or 60s? Do you have time to bounce back? Or you're going to have to go find yourself another job when you thought you were about to retire. We saw that in 2008, 2009. A lot of people who thought, I'm done, I'm retired, I'm out. And all of a sudden, no, I'm not. I'm going back to work because I got bills to pay. I got family members to support and help out. I'm going back to work. This is a problem that I think we're going to see coming up here. And government failed us in 2008, 2009. It helped the fat cats and not the average person. And I can't imagine that not happening now. Now you're going to say, wait a minute, Larry. It's okay because in New York City, we have a plan. And we do. We're going to take those commercial buildings and we're going to turn them into residential buildings. That's what we're going to do. We're going to turn them into residential buildings. And when we do that, here's the best part. We're going to make it where it's affordable housing. And now people who are in trouble can now move into those houses and become renters. Well, that sounds amazing. Is it? I think you already know it's not. I think you already know this is another plan to turn a bunch of people in the middle class who are owners, a bunch of people who are working for renters. And the fat cats will win yet again. Man, that was Debbie Downer. But I will give you some positives. I promise I will. I will give you some stuff that's more positive. Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York, 585-346-3000. Back after the break with your calls and your chat.
Hey, Larry, I gave you the guy's name twice. If you don't want to take calls in the first segment, don't give the phone number out till you go to the first break, because all you do is...
Why do businesses?
Yeah, no, the opposite. You know, you only pissed him off because he was on hold for like a good 5 minutes or more. It was Rob from Brooklyn. I don't know if you know the guy or not.
Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships.
Yeah, no, because the problem is when you give the number, they think they can call. So word of advice, give it when you go to the first break or when you're setting it to the break, because that way, if you want the first segment to talk, that way we're not getting people on too soon.
Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau.
That's what I thought, but he called.
For achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585.
Well, yeah, I mean most shows usually wait till the second segment, and just when you give out the number, people might call. So that's why just wait toward the back end of the first segment. So, all right, no problem. I just, like I said, hopefully he'll call back another time and we haven't pissed him off.
How can it be that dirty? Don't AC and furnace filters help?
Only with dust, Zach. But when Taylor installs a whole house APCO air purifier to detox the air, odors, chemicals, mold, bacteria, and viruses are removed.
For clean indoor air.
Yep. Ain't science awesome?
Taylor, 500 help.
With incompetent, devious Washington and Albany leadership and a corrupt corporate media that uses news and social to control and mislead, it's important to preserve freedom of speech and to promote a truth-based society for our families.
Sorry for the semi-4-letter word.
WYSL stations can grow your business, professional practice, or organization, so allocate your ad dollars.
We were talking about that last hour about toilets and water.
Conservative thought, affordable and effective. The WYSL stations, the voice of liberty. Call 346-3000 to advertise.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
It is Larry Sharpe here on WYSL Rochester, New York. Sharpe Way Radio. So happy for you to give me a small chunk of your afternoon. 585-346-3000. Yes, I was talking about commercial real estate, how that affects people, how that then affects retailers, and then how that affects residential people and your small homeowners. So we've decided, to the best of our ability, to start converting commercial, which now over half of our commercial real estate here in New York City is empty. We're going to turn it over and we're going to help out the average New Yorker and give them cheap housing. That is our plan. Does anybody know how hard it is to turn a commercial space into a residential space? Billions of dollars. What will that mean? That will mean that's how we'll bail out our bankers. I'm not joking. We will bail out our bankers that way by just creating more and more debt. When we do that, we're also going to try, of course, to regulate the rents. We can't really do that because in New York City, how it works is if it's new construction, you can now up the rent. So they might put some nice people in at a small, a couple places. Then they'll make their life terrible, get them to move or get them to change or whatever, and then they'll raise the rents again. It's an ongoing circus that we've been seeing in this city for decades. And sadly, nobody learns. But you might say, wait a minute, Larry. Okay, this all sounds good. But come on. The city's dying. People are leaving. That's true. Larry, our state's dying. New York State's dying. People are leaving. That's true. So what in the world could be their end game? Don't the people who are in charge see this? Can't they look at the data and see that people are leaving? Can't they see that? They can. Absolutely. I'm not the only guy who sees this. You're not the only person who sees this. Of course. They all see this. Of course they do. But wait a minute, lad, then what's this end game? Why in the world would they want people to leave New York State? Here's the part that will drive many of you crazy. It isn't that they want you leaving or don't want you leaving. They actually just don't care. It is apathy. I don't mean that to be cruel. I don't mean that to be odd, nothing. That's the reality of it. They're giving their friends jobs, and I mean big jobs, like big contracts when I say jobs. They're making tons of money. They're grifting like there's no tomorrow. They're all setting themselves up for the future. If you leave, okay. If you don't leave, okay. They actually don't care if you leave. If they cared if you left, they'd be doing something to make you stay. They're not. They don't care. The people in charge right now, and it's probably across the country, I'm sure it's in my state, all they care about is can they grift well enough to set themselves up for the future. You see it. It is obvious. If you want to stay in New York, awesome, good. You don't? Also awesome, also good. They don't care. Have you noticed they rarely even bring it up? Who's running for office brought that up last year, even in 2018, brought up the fact that people are leaving and we have to stop them from leaving? Almost nobody, almost never. It's every other issue you could imagine. Look at New York City right now. Literally this weekend, there are people protesting in the streets. Yesterday too. People stopping the subways, getting on the subway tracks, stopping people from doing things. For what? Because they want some guy to go to jail. Now, maybe he should go to jail. No judgment, maybe he should. But is that the reason to protest? Is that the reason to shut down the streets? Is that the reason to have battles in the streets with friends and cops and other people disagree with you? Literally bloody fights, literally stopping trains, getting on the subways tracks and stopping trains from moving subways. Is that the reason? Or would it be better to have a reason to say, hey, we're not moving until you start caring about us having to leave our
Ken from New Jersey.
that we love? No, not that. We want some guy to go to jail. Not we care about our state, our city, our family, our farms, our towns. Not that. That we'll accept and just pack up and give you whole money as we move to Florida. Let me grab a call if I can. I'm going to grab Ken from Jersey. How are you, Ken?
I'm good, Larry. How are you?
What's going on?
Well, I wanted to know if you had heard that Newark was trying to impose rent control on newer housing, which is in violation of state law. I mean, it's bad enough they impose it on older housing, but that, of course, is an enemy of affordable housing. It's just does the opposite of what it's intended to do. And Newark
yes, but what happens in this case, though, Ken, is I get to feel really good about what I proposed. See, that's what I do get. I get to virtue signal to my constituency that I care about them. See, I'm doing something, Ken. I'm forcing the evil landlords, who are all evil by default because they're landlords, I am forcing them to lower the price because they're just greedy. That's all they are. And so see how good I am. They do get to do that, though, Ken.
Yeah, they're very good at that. The actual what creates affordable housing, or what used to, was the construction of new housing. And when there's a glut of new housing, the people who can afford it move to the brand new shiny housing, and that creates affordable housing in the apartments and the units that they move out of.
Yeah, but see, there you are doing that like economics thing, Ken. That's your problem. That's not politics. That's economics.
I realize that.
So yes, I'm with you. And I think we have a lot of problems with this, right? And while we do have some of that, the other issue we have is usually when people were building houses, construction companies, real estate companies, they were the ones building it. And their goal was to make money from the housing, which sounds funny, but that's the norm. That is no longer the norm in most states now. The people who are trying to make money are financial institutions. They make money on the flipping and selling and buying and renting and all types of things and investments, which means their interest is never the actual renter. Their interest is not the renter, making the renter happy. They also swap out companies left and right. They change who owns who. They actually have different holding companies. So there's not even a brand issue that usually a market would care about, a brand issue. Even that doesn't exist. So because of how our financial system works, what you're saying is even harder. Did I lose you, Ken?
Yeah, I hear you now. You cut out for a second.
Oh, sorry. So all I was saying is that the financial situation makes it even harder for them to do the normal thing in the market. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes. So thank you, Ken. I appreciate the call.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
So the thing I want to bring up with what Ken said is sometimes you will find lawmakers know 100% what they're doing is either against state law, unconstitutional, won't pass, any of those things. But they don't care again. The goal isn't to actually solve the problem. The goal is to make the average person believe that I care about you, so you'll keep voting for me. Now, the second piece is sometimes they know it's illegal or bad or against their constitution or whatever, and they'll still do it. Recognize that it will pass. Again, knowing that it's a problem. And then they'll wait for the courts to fix it. That is sadly a common thing. That happens in New York State all the time, which is why I constantly get upset with our judges. Our judges will not on their own ever fight a law. They wait till somebody of stature sues them. Well, how does some landlord who's barely surviving because they have one unit in their house, a basement or something, how are they, going to know who and how to sue? Then how are they going to find the money to pay for a lawyer who take the case and go sue, hoping they win when they may lose? How do they know that? They don't. They have no idea. They just get hammered. That's it. So they create laws knowing there are either illegal laws or against their constitution or unconstitutional in general, knowing this, knowing that the only people who would have any chance of stopping them are wealthy people or savvy people. And as long as this law helps them, they won't do anything. Win-win. Happens all the time. And people get mad at me. Larry, why are you mad at judges? It's not their job to stop this stuff. It's their job to follow the law. No, it is not. Their job is to interpret the law. And when the mind-numb chimps in our assembly pass terrible laws, and they do constantly, who's going to stop them? Half our laws in New York State aren't even laws. They're just rules they put in a budget, which means now the executive branch and the legislative branch are now in cahoots to screw us over. And then the judges turn a blind eye. And we wonder, why does New York State not work? Because all three branches are all working together. There's no checks and balances. There's checks going to them and increasing their balance. That's the checks and balances we got. Checks going to them, increasing their bank balances. But politically, we don't need checks and balances. Forget that. Doesn't exist. Ken is correct. I'm glad he called. Let me grab a couple of comments from the chat. I do appreciate you guys doing that. Joe says he is going to buy $250,000 in Bitcoin. That may not be a bad idea, Joe. I'm just saying, the way our dollars are going, maybe Bitcoin's the cool thing. To be clear, that's not financial advice. I don't know if that's true. I just think it's funny that Joe said that because I bet a bunch of people were actually thinking that. All righty, is Bitcoin the answer? Maybe it's becoming a landlord. Let me know. Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York, 585-346-3000. Back with your calls and the chat after the break.
Yeah, by the way, when that caller lost us, it was on his end cell phone, not you.
For truth and freedom.
WYSL.
AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. We'll have clear skies, still a little chill in the air. We'll dip into the 30s and 40s out there. Wednesday should be a gorgeous afternoon. Tons of sun, a little warmer. We'll see temperatures close to 70, cooler up by Lake Ontario. And then Thursday, mid-70s with sunshine. Friday could be close to 80 with partly sunny skies. So some very nice weather through the end of the week. I'm Rich Cadelia, WYSL.
See the new models, new technology, and a new way of buying at Ralph Honda. The 2023 Hondas are fuel-efficient, spacious, and sporty with something for every Honda lover. Customize yours at ralphhonda.com or in our showroom. Find your next Honda at Ralph Honda.
A federal judge in Washington, D.C., Colleen Culler-Catelli, is presenting an argument that the 13th Amendment of the Constitution outlawing slavery implies a right to abortion. Oddly, Culler-Catelli's argument aligns with pro-abortion extremist Jane's Revenge propaganda, now known to be linked to Antifa. Marxist Antifa believes capitalism to be an enslaving economic system that must be destroyed. This is why Jane's Revenge Antifa groups use slavery language when referring to childbearing, since they argue, without abortion, raising the child would make her a permanent underclass. In their first communique, Antifa, Jane's Revenge, issued an ultimatum to pro-life groups after their first firebombing, saying, "This was only a warning. We demand the disbanding of all anti-choice establishments, fake clinics, within the next 30 days. We will not sit still while we are forced into servitude." 30 days later, the group firebombed Compass Care's Buffalo Medical Office. This RealAbortionNews.com update is sponsored by Compass Care.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
From your friends at GCC, claim your Genesee Promise Plus Summer Tuition Scholarship and earn up to 8 SUNY College credits during GCC summer sessions, which start May 30th. Call 1-866-CALL-GCC for more information or go to genesee.edu/promise and apply today. Your time is now.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. At Bartolomeo and Prado Funeral Home, the focus is always on how your loved one lived. Bartolomeo and Prado has been helping families create meaningful tributes and celebrating unique lives for 3 generations. They treat your family like their own, always with the utmost compassion, warmth, and care. When you're in need, call Bartolomeo and Prado Funeral Home at 720-6000.
Don't hate your home. Pick up the phone and call Wise Home Energy.
Okay, we got another caller, Roger from Nassau.
Wise Home Energy would like to thank our clients and employees for this prestigious award. For the 6th year in a row, thank you for choosing Wise Home Energy for solving your ice issues, improving hot and cold rooms, and reducing high energy bills. So don't hate your home. Pick up the phone and call Wise Home Energy at 585-270-5836 today.
All Seasons Wine and Spirits. Friendly service from folks who are your neighbors. Your favorite wines and spirits are there, including the best selection of New York and Finger Lakes wines in Livingston County. Savings every day on cases. Voted best. All Seasons Wine and Spirits. 255 Main Street in Avon.
While everything else is going up, Advantage Auto Loan rates are going down. During our Advantage Auto Loan rate sale, rates are as low as 4.99% APR. Refinance your current auto loan and save too. Go to AdvantageFCU.org. Membership subject to eligibility, member NCUA, limited time offer.
At Ralph Honda, we know car buying has changed, and so have we. Visit ralphhonda.com to value your trade, get instant credit approval, schedule service, even build and customize your next car. It's a whole new way of doing business, online and at Westridge Road. Ralph Honda.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Yes, it is Larry Sharpe here. WYSL, Rochester Radio, Sharpe Way Radio, 585-346-3000. Been talking about commercial rents, residential rents, people trying to have rent control, people trying to focus on trying to make things better for people, but then just taking control for themselves. I think we see this constantly. I think we see politicians and leaders virtue signaling, but not actually producing any real results constantly, all the time. And it makes you upset. I get it. Me too. Right? I see people who get constantly angry and they just yell at the other. And the last piece I'm going to bring up here real fast. Someone brought up in the chat Susan Sarandon, who got arrested in Albany, trying to get, I think, tips or wages. I forgot what it was for, but she was trying to fight for wages, I believe, of restaurant workers, I believe. Now, you may agree with her or not. I don't know what your personal view is that or not, but at least she's trying for an actual reason to make some change. I'll give her that, right? I may agree or not agree, but she's not shutting down the subway system of New York, which just hurts people who are mostly middle class and working poor because they want some guy to go to jail and no actual change to the system. At least she's trying to change the system. I'll give her that. And she's ready to go to jail. You know what? Not too shabby. I'll credit where credit is due. That's what I'll say. Let me grab a call if I could. This is Roger from Nassau. Roger, how are you?
Hey, I'm on Bluetooth. Are you able to hear me?
I hear you completely. Yep.
Okay, good. So, first, you got to tell us who these politicians were that hate their constituents. I remember you mentioned that the other day. I want to know.
I know we do, but the problem is they don't actually say it, and if I say it, I'm in trouble because they don't actually say the words. But what actually happens is their actions show, and the way they talk to me show me that. But they never actually say it. So if I were to say this politician hates their constituents, they'd probably sue me and probably win.
So the other thing is talking about landlords.
Yep.
We can't talk about landlords without talking about the biggest landlord there is in the country. That is, and probably the world. That is BlackRock. They own
agreed.
Everything.
Yes. And to bring this point real fast, the reason what I was trying to get across with Ken when Ken mentioned was that elephant in the room affects everything. You are totally correct. Please keep going.
Yeah, because I know Sabrina did a segment on that. I didn't believe. I was like, BlackRock owns.
For those who
Disney
don't know,
also?
that is Sabrina Salvati, also known as Sabby Sabs on YouTube. So yes, please keep going.
And she showed this whole thing about how, like, they own everything, and what they don't own, then Vanguard owns it. And they're the ones that own all this property, and they engage in rent speculation that drives up the price, that drives up the rent price. And none of these politicians, I know Senator Julia Salazar was doing with that rent controlled rent something. I forgot what it was. And I'm like, why don't you just outlaw private equity from owning housing? Okay. I mean, if we're going to talk about like something transformational, you know what I mean? And it goes to
that's a valid point. This is, I hadn't thought of it this way, Roger. I don't think you could you couldn't make, it wouldn't be right to make a business like that not be able to own commercial real estate, because of course they're commercial entities. So you'd want them to be able to own commercial real estate, but maybe making some type of rule on residential, that might be something to consider. I'm open to the concept of it. I don't know how we implement that. I'd be worried how you implement that. And it doesn't just become more regulation and more problems. But I'm open to the concept because I think you're right. It's become a monopoly that affects everything. And people, to your point, they're using these people's homes now, are basically now gambles and speculation, and they're not actual products to be bought and sold. You're right.
Exactly. And also, like I said, going back to public banking. Okay, a public bank can help to first of all, the prime mission of a public bank on the front end is infrastructure, but on the back end, it helps to build like affordable homes. It creates a surplus in the economy without having to raise existing taxes or create new taxes, and based on that surplus, they're able to.
Roger, you're preaching to the choir on this one, right? My biggest issue, as you know, we've talked about this before. My biggest issue is the support of local credit unions to support local communities and local economies. That's the part I love the best out of it.
Yes, and it ensures it helps out where they say, "Hey, yo, look, you don't have to turn to Wall Street. You could turn to us to insure you, and we'll insure more of you."
Yes.
So that you can do what you got to do, whatever the case is. But
let me be clear on this, Roger. What you're saying makes sense. The problem is BlackRock and many of its people, many of its owners, shareholders, they put a lot of money into elections. They put a lot of money. I wouldn't even say elections. They put a lot of money into the pockets because they don't actually care who wins. They just care they have control of whoever does win. So the Democrat, Republican, I don't care. Do I got my hands in your pocket? We're good. That's all I care about. That's it.
And well, I will say this: the public financing of election law for state lawmakers is kicking in for 2024, and for those who run for state office, it'll be kicking in 2026.
Yep.
Now, there's some holes in there that I'm like,
yes, there are.
You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, the government will stop matching funds once you raise a certain amount of money. Or
I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to go worse. The government is going to use taxpayer dollars in a state, in the case of New York State, where at least 1/3 of the population isn't going to agree with the politics of the people running, at least, if not more, because people aren't actually voting or people aren't part of parties that can get on the ballot. And you know this because you care about independent parties. There's only about, if I know get my numbers right, about 8 million, maybe, is that right? People who are registered as Republicans and Democrats? No, about 9 million, not mistaken. And there's like 13 million eligible voters. That's like 5 million people who aren't in any way, shape, or form represented. And a bunch of those Democrats, Republicans are only registered as that party because it's the only way they can have any say in the politics. So this is forced speech.
But I mean, it's like, well, you know, I will say this: at some point, you know, the government is going to use your taxes for something that you don't want. You just have to figure out what's acceptable and what's not. I'll take public financing over elections, even though this one is like, you could do a little bit better on this. You know what I mean? There's some loopholes there.
Look,
but I'll take
Roger, if you're going to have taxation, and clearly I'm a libertarian, so I would like as little of it as possible. But if you're going to have it, I'd like a more democratic way of dealing with it. I'd like ways of us being able to put the money that we're going to have to put out to places that matter to us. I'd rather have a system to where my money is going at least to things that I like. If you're going to take my money, at least let me put it where I want it. At least that or something. So I don't know. Roger, I appreciate the call. Thank you so much, my friend.
All right, no problem.
So yeah, Roger has a valid point, right? The thing that people don't bring up is the BlackRock piece. In fact, here on our chat, Patty brings up, yes, BlackRock gets mentioned, they own the land and Nestle owns our water. Ooh, Patty, I like that. Nestle owns our water. This is a big problem. Look, not that I'm against private corporations getting involved in things, not at all. I have a big problem when two things happen. One, monopoly and the oligarchy. That's a problem. And I think that's Roger's point. Like two companies own everything. That's a problem, number one. And one of the reasons is, to Roger's point, there really aren't that many other options. If we had other options, we could pick them. That's option one. But the second part, which is the second part I don't like, which is now you have government and them together working in tandem. If government's going to exist and help us, it has to fight against the big corporations, not be the corporations. So yes, we have to find something to make that better. Patty also goes on to say, I met with Susan Sarandon in Philly. She is trying. She really is. You know, it's funny you say that, Patty, because I feel like there are many popular people, however you want to, celebrity, who spend more time just trying to be cool than do anything. And I didn't know Susan Sarandon was doing that work until she got arrested. And to me, that's actually impressive. That she's not just going on and saying, look, I'm super cool. She's out there, and guys like me only know it once they get arrested. That actually is pretty good. I'm telling the truth. It is. Am I wrong? Let me know. Do you like Susan Sarandon? Is Roger right? 585-346-3000. Larry Sharpe, WYSL, Rochester, New York. Sharpe Radio. Back with your calls and the chat after the break.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Don't hate your home. Pick up the phone and call Wise Home Energy. The Energy Star Contractor of the Year, Wise Home Energy would like to thank our clients and employees for this prestigious award. For the 6th year in a row, thank you for choosing Wise Home Energy for solving your ice issues, improving hot and cold rooms, and reducing high energy bills. So don't hate your home. Pick up the phone and call Wise Home Energy at 585-270-5836 today.
With incompetent, devious Washington and Albany leadership and a corrupt corporate media that uses news and social to control and mislead, it's important to preserve freedom of speech and to promote a truth-based society for our families. Try something different in 2023. The WYSL stations can grow your business, professional practice, or organization, so allocate your ad dollars here. Take advantage of a huge audience entertained and informed by leading conservative thought. Affordable and effective. The WYSL stations, the voice of liberty. Call 346-3000 to advertise.
Sharpe Radio on the WYSL stations.
Oh, yes. It is Larry Sharpe back here on WYSL, Rochester, New York. Sharpe Radio. So happy to have you here. So happy that you give me a chunk of your afternoon. And we have been talking about rents, about commercial, residential, retail real estate and how it affects us all. But we haven't talked about the one thing that people are mad about, which is stoves. Yeah. And now the new thing coming out of DC, washing machines. The part that bothers me about these two things is, first off, I don't know if they actually matter, to be forward. But for the sake of argument, true or not, sake of argument, I'm going to say that stoves are for some reason bad, whatever. I'm sake of argument. And that washing machines, I don't know how but somehow bad. Whatever. Fine, they're bad. For the sake of argument, they're bad. Why are we paying the price when literally the amount of waste that large organizations are doing, meaning companies, the amount of waste that the military industrial complex is dealing with, the immigrant industrial complex, the homeless industrial complex, the amount of waste these groups are doing, run by the government, each of them. How dare they say that we can't have a stove or a washing machine, even if these appliances are somehow bad? Again, I'm not sure they are, but I'm going to give it to them. I'm going to say they're bad. Are they anywhere near as bad as these massive government wastes? Not even close. I'm sure, here I know, if you were to convert every stove into electric and make us all wash all our dishes by hand tomorrow, if that were to happen, still, the military industrial complex will be the world's largest polluter on the planet, hands down. For those of you who don't know this, New York State, all the pollution combined that we put out, according to the people who think we're evil, so according to them, is 0.03%, not 3%, 0.03% of the world. And right now, New York State, it's going to drive some of you crazy, literally, per capita, the best carbon footprint in the country. It's true. Check it out. I think I'm making it up. It's true. So we are currently the best. That's what you hear Kathy Hope go, we're the leader and we're going to keep leading. So what she says is, we're being punished. So we're going to be punished even more. I am blown away by this. Now, why would I bring this up in general? Because what's going to wind up happening now is a bunch of new construction. These commercial buildings are going to be turned into residential buildings, in theory. If they are they going to have no new stoves? No dishwashers? Or specialized solar-powered or whatever is the thing they're going to give us? Is that the issue? Now, you could force the issue, which she will. But you might say, Larry, why is she for? I don't get it. Is she really that much of an environmentalist? Does she actually believe this stuff? Absolutely no. No, not true at all. But she knows that there is somebody who makes the cool electric stoves or whatever is the thing, who is one of her donors or constituents. I'm not joking with this. I want to be clear. So if she then says, now everyone has to electric stoves, those companies or friends of hers all get massive contracts. She's setting up for them to get massive contracts. And in return, they give her campaign lots of money. And that's legal. In my view, unethical, but completely legal, which is why they do it. Then they'll make a specialized board of stoves or dishwashers, whatever. She'll make that the office of dishwashers or whatever. She'll do that. And then she'll put her friend on the board, who also, by the way, I don't know, sells dishwashing liquid or something. I know that sounds dumb, but that's real. That's what's actually happening. Does Governor Hochul actually care about this stuff? No. And I'm happy if she wants to sue me, please. I know she doesn't. It's clear. So that I'm not afraid of being sued for. Of course she doesn't. She'll act like it so that the people who lean more left environmentally will be like, see, she's on our side. She's not on your side at all. If she was on your side, she'd be fighting the military industrial complex, the homeless industrial complex, the migrant industrial complex. If she was on your side, do you care about that? She doesn't. She wouldn't be shutting down nuclear power plants. She'd be building nuclear power plants if she was actually on your side. She's not. She's on the side of her friends who give her money, and therefore she can then pretend and virtue signal so she can say, see how awesome I am? As I literally give money to my friends, ruin my state, and watch your families be destroyed as they pack up and move to Florida. Now, I'm going to give you an interesting stat. Ken called from New Jersey. One of the most common states that New Yorkers go to, believe it or not, is New Jersey. Now you might go, why is that? Well, here's the next stat. People in New Jersey, like the third or fourth leading state, people leaving is New Jersey. going to Florida. So what does that mean? These are New Yorkers who haven't accepted their fate yet. They're like, New York sucks, but I don't really want to leave New York completely. So I'll go to Jersey. Can't be that bad. And it'll be like next to my family and friends and business. So maybe I'll be okay if I go to Jersey. They'll go to Jersey. Jersey sucks too. Sorry, it does. It's not as bad as New York. That part, they're right. New York is worse, but Jersey sucks too. So what do? They move to Florida after. So New Jersey's like the 2 or 3 year stop off point where they try to figure out, no, it's going to be okay. It's not. Just go to Florida. Just go to Florida. It's just an extra move for nothing. Yes, that's the sad part that people don't know. Anyway, I went a little nuts on that one. I wanted to make sure that we get that. Valerie responds, Larry, enjoying your show, shared. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Jerry, out of Jacksonville, Florida, says more government is never the proper response. Well, Jerry, if you want to solve the problem, yes, but that's your issue, right? You're the weirdo. You want to solve the problem. Yeah, they don't want to solve the problem. Their goal is looking like they're doing something, getting enough people to believe they are doing something, rewarding their friends so they can keep getting money. If that's your goal, more government is absolutely the proper response. So the question is, what's your goal, right? Your goal is the goal I agree with, but not theirs. That's the problem. It's not really their goal. So yeah, absolutely. Julie says, you are in New York State. I personally feel the state has many ineffective policies. Julie, you are correct. Yes, and yes. 100%. Yeah. Joel says, Hochul sees a ban of natural gas as the party stance. She could care less. Again, that's my point, right? She will ban it because it makes sense. That's the issue. Joel's the one, by the way, who told me about Susan Sarandon. He says she got arrested in Albany protesting minimum wage for restaurant workers. If we had the fair tax, tips wouldn't be an issue. Tips are only an issue because government wants their income. There are two parts to this, Joel. And to be forward, you're right. The reason why government wants a minimum wage for restaurant workers is so that they can collect taxes on all the money. That's accurate. But there are some people who believe that a minimum wage for restaurant workers is better for restaurant workers. Some people believe that. I don't know Susan Sarandon. She may believe that to be true. So not every activist who is on this believes that it's because of government. Government backs it for your reason. You're correct. That's why they want it. The question is it actually right for the workers? To be forward, I don't know. I don't work in that industry. I don't know if it makes sense. Will restaurant workers make more or less? I don't really know. My gut tells me that if we do this, it is going to be a cultural shift that is going to really shake people for a while. My gut says restaurant workers initially will pay a high price for this because when people decide to still tip or not tip, culturally, we've tipped for a long time. How does that work? Will it raise prices? I think there could be a problem initially. But either way, I would still rather it be between the worker and the restaurant and let them do as they see fit. I want workers to have more control over their tips, more control over their wages, more control over their jobs. I still let workers decide. That's where my head is. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for giving me a chunk of your afternoon. I will see you all very soon.